I was standing at my living room window, watching the snow pile up on Maple Ridge Drive in Boulder, Colorado, when I saw her marching across the street toward my driveway like she owned the entire neighborhood. The woman had that distinctive walk of someone who had complained to management so many times that she believed she was management. Her name was Patricia Henderson, and she was the president of our homeowners association. More importantly, she had no idea that I held the promissory note on her house, and that note was about to come due in exactly 32 days. My name is Garrison, and I work in private lending. Most people do not understand what that means, so let me explain it simply. When banks refuse to give someone a loan, they come to people like me. I charge higher interest rates because I am taking on higher risk. Patricia Henderson had come to me 3 years ago through a broker, desperate to refinance her home after her husband left her with a mountain of debt. She never knew my name was on those papers because everything went through my LLC. Small world, right? I opened the door before she could ring the bell. The cold air hit me immediately, and I could see her breath forming little clouds as she stood there in her puffy purple coat with fake fur around the hood. She was probably in her late 40s, with that specific haircut that seemed to be required for HOA board members. You know the one. Short, layered, highlighted. The kind of haircut that says, "I would like to speak to your manager, Connor," she said, not bothering with pleasantries. "I need to borrow your snow blower, not ask, not request, need, as if my property was community property." "Good morning, Patricia," I said, leaning against the doorframe. "I am actually about to use it myself." Her eyes narrowed. "The HOA is sponsoring a snow removal initiative for the elderly residents on Spruce Lane. As a member of this community, you should be contributing to neighborhood welfare." I had lived in this development for 2 years, and I had learned quickly that Patricia ran the HOA like her personal fiefdom. She had sent me violation notices for everything from leaving my trash cans visible from the street for more than 12 hours after pickup to having the wrong shade of white on my mailbox. Every notice came with a fine. Every fine came with her signature and a smiley face sticker. "That sounds like a great initiative," I said, "but my snow blower is my personal property, and I have my own driveway to clear." "I am not asking, Connor. The HOA bylaws clearly state that homeowners must contribute to community initiatives when called upon. I could fine you for non-compliance." I almost laughed. The audacity was impressive. "Actually, Patricia, I have read those bylaws pretty carefully. There is nothing in there about lending personal property to the HOA. But you know what is in there? A clause about HOA officers abusing their position for personal benefit. Does the rest of the board know about this snow removal initiative? Or is this just you wanting to use my $800 snow blower for free?" Her face flushed red, and it was not from the cold. "How dare you suggest that I would abuse my position? I have dedicated countless hours to this community. I have improved property values. I have maintained standards. By fining people for having their garage doors open for more than 10 minutes, I asked. By threatening to put liens on houses because someone planted tulips instead of petunias. Those rules exist for a reason, she snapped. If you do not like them, you can move. But as long as you live here, you will follow them. Now, are you going to be a team player and hand over that snow blower, or do I need to call an emergency board meeting about your lack of community spirit? I considered my options. I could tell her right then and there that I held the note on her house. That in 32 days, when her balloon payment came due, she would owe me $83,000, and I knew for a fact that she did not have it. The broker who had connected us had mentioned recently that Patricia had been calling around, desperate to refinance again, but her credit had gotten worse. not better. She had been living beyond her means, maintaining the appearance of success while drowning in debt. But that would not be nearly as satisfying as watching this play out. "You know what, Patricia? You can borrow the snow blower. It is in my garage. Let me get it started for you." The sudden shift caught her off guard. She blinked, and for a moment the imperious mask slipped. "Oh, well, good. I am glad you have decided to see reason." I walked her around to the garage and opened it. My snow blower was a beautiful machine, a top-of-the-line Ariens with electric start and heated handles. I had bought it at the beginning of winter because I was tired of shoveling, and it had been worth every penny. "This is a nice model," Patricia said, her tone slightly less aggressive now that she was getting what she wanted. "Much better than that old thing the HOA owns." "Why do you not use the HOA's snow blower?" I asked, genuinely curious. "It broke," she admitted. "And the repair costs are not in this quarter's budget. We are having some temporary cash flow issues." That was interesting. The HOA collected dues from every household in the development. There were 47 homes here, and each paid $200 per month. That was over $9,000 monthly. Where was all that money going? "When do you think you will have it back to me?" I asked as I started the machine. It roared to life, powerful and ready. "Tomorrow evening at the latest," she said. "I just need to do the 3 houses on Spruce Lane and maybe a few others." "A few others?" "Well, since I will have it, I might as well help out some of the board members. Linda's driveway is quite long, and Robert's corner lot always gets buried by the plows." So this was not about elderly residents at all. This was about Patricia not wanting to pay for snow removal for herself and her friends. "Just have it back by tomorrow night," I said. "And Patricia, be careful with it. That machine cost more than most people spend on a vacation." She waved dismissively. "I know how to operate a snow blower, Connor. I am not incompetent." I watched her struggle to figure out the controls for about 30 seconds before I showed her which lever controlled the chute direction and which one controlled the drive. Then she was off, wobbling slightly as the machine pulled her down my driveway and toward the street. I went back inside and made myself some coffee. Then I pulled out my laptop and opened the file on Patricia Henderson's loan. I had not looked at it in months. My business manager usually handled the day-to-day tracking, but I wanted to review the details personally now. The original loan had been for $95,000, used to pay off credit card debt and a second mortgage. The interest rate was 12%, which was high but not unreasonable for someone with her credit profile. The loan had been structured with interest-only payments for 3 years, followed by a balloon payment of the entire principal, plus any unpaid interest. It was a common structure for people who expected their financial situation to improve, allowing them to refinance before the balloon came due. Patricia's situation had not improved. According to the payment history, she had been late 6 times in the past year alone. Each time, she had called my office in a panic, promising the check was in the mail, blaming the delay on everything from bank errors to postal strikes that did not actually exist. My assistant had noted each excuse in the file. The balloon payment was due on February 21st. Today was January 20th. 32 days. I had sent the required 90-day notice back in November, as required by Colorado law. Patricia had signed for it. There was no way she could claim she did not know it was coming. The notice had clearly stated the amount due and the deadline. It had also outlined her options, which included refinancing, selling the property, or paying in full. She had not contacted my office once since receiving that notice. My phone rang. It was my business manager, Derek. "Connor, I just wanted to give you a heads up. We got another inquiry about the Henderson loan." From Patricia, I asked. No, from some subprime lender in Nevada. They wanted to know if we would consider a short payoff. I told them no per your standing instructions. Good. What did they offer? $68,000. They claimed the property value had declined and that we should be happy to get out without a loss. I pulled up the recent property records on my computer. Patricia's house had sold to her for $230,000 8 years ago. The current Zillow estimate was $290,000. Boulder Real Estate had done nothing but go up. That is interesting, I said. They are either incompetent or hoping we are idiots. Probably both, Derek agreed. What do you want to do when she defaults? Foreclosure. Let us wait and see if she actually defaults first. She has until February 21st to figure something out. Maybe she will sell, or maybe she has a rich relative somewhere. You know she is not going to pay, Connor. People like her never do. They leverage everything, live beyond their means, and then act shocked when the bills come due. Derek was not wrong, but I did not like assuming the worst about people. Even people like Patricia, who seemed to take pleasure in making everyone else's life difficult. We will follow the process, I said. Everything by the book. If she defaults, we will send the required notices and proceed with foreclosure. Colorado has some of the fastest foreclosure timelines in the country, so it will not drag out. After I hung up with Derek, I went about my day. I did some work from home, took a few calls, and reviewed some new loan applications. Around 4 in the afternoon, I looked out the window and saw that my snow blower was still not back. The snow had stopped, and the sun was trying to break through the clouds. My driveway was now the only one on the street that had not been cleared. Even Patricia's driveway, 3 houses down on the opposite side, was perfectly clear. I called her cell phone. It went straight to voicemail. Patricia, this is Connor. You have had my snow blower for 6 hours now. I need it back so I can clear my own driveway. Please call me. No response. At 6 o'clock I called again. Voicemail again. At 8 o'clock I walked down to her house. The lights were on and I could see her moving around inside through the front window. I rang the doorbell. She answered the door in a bathrobe, holding a glass of red wine. Connor, what is it? My snow blower, I said. You have had it all day. I need it back. Oh, right, yes, it is in my garage. The thing is, I am not quite done with it. There are a few more driveways I promised to do tomorrow morning. Patricia, you said you would have it back by tomorrow night at the latest. I need to clear my own driveway. I have to leave early in the morning. I will have it back to you by noon tomorrow, she said. That should give you plenty of time. That is not what we agreed. Connor, do not be difficult. I am doing a service for the community. Surely you can be without your precious snow blower for one more morning. Besides, is it not nice to come home to a clear driveway? I will do yours first thing tomorrow before I do the others. You will do mine right now, or you will return my snow blower right now, I said, keeping my voice level. Those are your options. Her expression hardened. I do not appreciate your tone. I am an HOA officer, and you need to show some respect. And I am the owner of a snow blower that you borrowed and are now refusing to return on time. That has nothing to do with the HOA, Patricia. That is just basic courtesy between neighbors. Fine, she said coldly. You want your snow blower back right now. Come get it. She shut the door in my face. I stood there for a moment, genuinely amazed. Then I walked around to her garage. The side door was unlocked, which was convenient. My snow blower was sitting right there, still covered in snow. I grabbed the handle and wheeled it out, closing the door behind me. As I walked it back up the street toward my house, Patricia came running out in her bathrobe and slippers. What do you think you are doing? She shrieked. That is trespassing. You cannot just walk into someone's garage. You told me to come get it. I said calmly. So I did. I did not give you permission to enter my property. You opened the garage door and invited me to take it. That is implied permission. Several neighbors had come out now, drawn by Patricia's shouting. I recognized most of them. Tom from 2 doors down. Linda, the vice president of the HOA from across the street. Robert, the treasurer from the corner. This man is a thief, Patricia announced to the gathered audience. He just broke into my garage. I borrowed you my snow blower this morning, I explained to everyone. She agreed to return it by tonight. When she refused, she told me to come get it myself, so I did. That is not what happened, Patricia insisted. He demanded I do his driveway immediately, and when I said I would do it tomorrow, he broke into my garage and stole his own property. If it is my property, I cannot steal it, I pointed out. You trespassed. You told me to come get it. Linda stepped forward, ever the peacemaker. Okay, everyone, let us just calm down. Patricia, did you borrow Connor's snow blower? I did not borrow it. I requisitioned it for official HOA business. You cannot requisition personal property, I said. That is not a power the HOA has. I think we need to have an emergency board meeting about this, Robert said nervously. He was a quiet guy who seemed perpetually uncomfortable with confrontation. There seems to be some confusion about the scope of HOA authority. There is no confusion, Patricia said. The bylaws are clear. Community needs supersede individual property rights. Show me where it says that, I challenged. Because I have read those bylaws cover to cover, and that language is not in there. I do not need to justify HOA decisions to you, Connor. If you have a problem with how I run things, you can petition for my removal. But until then, you will follow the rules like everyone else. I looked around at the other neighbors. They were all avoiding eye contact. I realized in that moment that they were afraid of her. Afraid of the fines, the violation notices, the constant harassment. Patricia had created an environment where it was easier to go along with her demands than to fight back. I will see you all later, I said, wheeling my snow blower the rest of the way home. The next morning, I found a violation notice taped to my front door. It cited me for failure to maintain property appearance because my driveway had not been cleared of snow within 24 hours of snowfall ending. The fine was $150. I took a picture of it and sent it to Derek with a message. This woman has no idea what is about to hit her. His response was immediate. Can we expedite the foreclosure? No, I typed back. We do it by the book, every step legal and documented. She is going to learn that actions have consequences. I spent the morning clearing my driveway with the snow blower, taking my time and doing a thorough job. Then I drafted a formal response to the violation notice, citing the HOA's own bylaws about reasonable timelines and the fact that the snowfall had only ended 18 hours earlier, not 24. I included photos with timestamps. I also noted that I had been unable to clear my driveway earlier because HOA President Patricia Henderson had been using my personal snow removal equipment without permission. I sent copies to all 5 board members via certified mail. Then, I started digging into the HOA's finances. As a homeowner in the development, I had the right to request financial records. I drafted a formal request, citing Colorado's Common Interest Ownership Act, which required HOAs to provide financial statements to any homeowner who requested them. I sent that request to Patricia and the board via certified mail as well. 2 days later, I got a call from Linda. Connor, I got your letter about the violation notice. I have to say, you make some good points. I was not aware that Patricia had borrowed your snow blower without your permission. She demanded it, I corrected. and then refused to return it when I needed it back. Yes, well, that does put things in a different light. I am going to recommend that the board rescind the fine. It is not fair to penalize you when you were unable to access your own equipment. I appreciate that, Linda. I also sent a request for the HOA financial records. When can I expect to receive those? There was a pause. Financial records. Why do you need those? Because I am a homeowner, and I have a right to see how my dues are being spent. The law is very clear about this. Well, yes, technically, but most people do not bother. It is all quite boring, really. Just expenses for landscaping and snow removal and maintenance. Then it should be easy to provide them. I will have to talk to Patricia about this. She handles most of the financial stuff. Actually, is not Robert the treasurer? Should he not be handling the finances? Another pause. Patricia says it is easier if she manages everything centrally. Robert just signs off on things. That was a red flag the size of Colorado. An HOA president who controlled all the finances without oversight was an embezzlement case waiting to happen. Linda, I am not trying to cause trouble, but I am entitled to see those records, and the HOA is legally required to provide them within 30 days. If you do not provide them, I can take legal action to compel production, and that will cost the HOA a lot more than just handing over some spreadsheets. Let me talk to Patricia, she said, and hung up. That afternoon, I got an email from Patricia. The subject line was regarding your inappropriate request. The email read, Connor, I have been informed of your request for HOA financial records. While you are technically entitled to basic financial information, your request is overly broad and appears to be motivated by personal animosity rather than legitimate concern. I will provide you with the annual summary that was distributed to all homeowners last year. If you want more detailed information, you will need to provide a specific justification for why you need it. The HOA is not required to waste time and resources compiling data for residents who are simply trying to harass the board. Regards, Patricia Henderson, HOA President. I forwarded the email to my attorney, James, with a note. Can she do this? James called me 10 minutes later. No, she absolutely cannot do this. Colorado law is explicit. You are entitled to review all financial records, including bank statements, receipts, contracts, and communications related to finances. She cannot require you to justify why you want them. I will draft a response making it clear that she needs to comply or face legal action. How much will legal action cost? If we have to file a motion to compel, probably $5,000 to $7,000. But here is the good news. If we win, which we will, the court will order the HOA to pay your attorney fees. So Patricia would be paying for her own stubbornness out of the HOA funds, which means all the homeowners would be paying for it. Do it, I said. Draft the letter and send it. James's letter went out the next day via certified mail and email. It was 3 pages of dense legal language that boiled down to, provide the records within 10 days or we will see you in court. I did not hear anything from Patricia for a week. Then, on a Friday afternoon, a box was delivered to my door. Inside were 3 years of bank statements, receipts, invoices, and financial summaries for the HOA. I spent the entire weekend going through them. It did not take long to find the problems. Patricia had been using the HOA debit card for personal expenses. Hair salon, $120 charged to office supplies. Restaurant meals, 2 to 3 times per week, charged to board meetings. A weekend at a spa resort in Aspen, $2,000 charged to conference and training. But the really big issue was the landscaping contract. The HOA was paying a company called Green Vista Landscaping $4,000 per month for lawn care and snow removal. That seemed high, but not outrageous. What was outrageous was that Green Vista Landscaping was owned by Patricia's brother, according to the Colorado Secretary of State Business Registry. She had awarded a no-bid contract to a family member and had been funneling HOA money to him for 2 years. The total amount was nearly $96,000. I called James. I found embezzlement. A lot of it. How much? At least $15,000 in direct personal expenses, plus a $96,000 contract with her brother's company that appears to be massively overpriced. I looked up comparable landscaping services in the area, and most charge $1,000 to $1,500 per month for a development this size. James whistled. That is serious. You need to report this to the board and give them a chance to address it. If they do not, you can file a lawsuit on behalf of all the homeowners. This is a textbook case of HOA mismanagement. What about criminal charges? That would be up to the district attorney. Embezzlement from an HOA is a crime in Colorado, but prosecutors do not always pursue it unless the amounts are really large or there is public pressure. You could file a police report, though. I thought about it. Patricia was about to lose her house in 3 weeks. Did I really need to pile on criminal charges too? Then I remembered the way she had treated me and probably dozens of other homeowners. The fines, the harassment, the abuse of power. She had created a little kingdom where she was the tyrant, and nobody had stopped her because they were all too afraid or too apathetic. Let me talk to the board first, I said. Give them a chance to do the right thing. I drafted an email to all 5 board members, attaching a summary of my findings and supporting documentation. I kept the tone professional and factual. I outlined the personal expenses, the contract with her brother, and the total amount that had been misappropriated. I concluded by requesting an emergency board meeting to discuss the matter and determine appropriate action. I sent the email on Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, my phone was ringing off the hook. Linda called first. Connor, I had no idea. I swear, I had no idea she was doing any of this. We trusted her to handle things. Robert called next. This is bad. This is really bad. We could all be held liable for this. We are supposed to have oversight. Tom, another board member I had barely ever spoken to, called in a panic. Are we going to get sued? I did not do anything wrong. I just voted on stuff when Patricia asked me to. The only person who did not call was Patricia. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for Wednesday night at the community center. I showed up with James, who brought a briefcase full of documents. The room was packed. Word had gotten out about the allegations, and nearly every homeowner in the development was there. Patricia sat at the front table with the other board members, her face pale but composed. When she saw me walk in with an attorney, something flickered in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or anger. Linda called the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. We are here tonight to address some serious allegations that have been brought to the board's attention regarding financial improprieties. Connor Garrison has requested an opportunity to present his findings. Connor, the floor is yours. I stood up and walked to the front. James handed me a folder and I began. 3 weeks ago, I requested financial records from the HOA, as is my right under Colorado law. After some resistance, those records were provided. What I found was deeply troubling. I went through it all, item by item. The personal expenses, the spa weekend, the restaurant meals, the hair salon visits, every single charge with dates and amounts. Then I moved on to the landscaping contract. The HOA is currently paying Green Vista Landscaping $4,000 per month. That is $48,000 per year. This contract has been in place for 2 years. for a total of $96,000. Green Vista Landscaping is owned by Patricia's brother, which presents an obvious conflict of interest. More importantly, I contacted 3 other landscaping companies in the area and got quotes for comparable services. The average quote was $1,200 per month. This means the HOA has been overpaying by approximately $2,800 per month, or $67,000 over 2 years. The room erupted. People were shouting questions, demanding answers. Linda banged a gavel that I did not even know she had. Order. Please let Connor finish. I am finished, I said. The documentation is all here. I am happy to answer questions, but I think the most important question is for Patricia. Patricia, do you have an explanation for any of this? She stood up slowly. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. This is a witch hunt. Connor has had a grudge against me ever since I cited him for HOA violations. He is twisting innocent transactions to make them look improper. The charges he is calling personal expenses were legitimate business expenses. I did not keep every single receipt showing the business purpose, but I assure you everything was appropriate. As for my brother's company, yes, I should have disclosed the relationship. That was an oversight, but his prices are competitive, and he does excellent work. Your brother's prices are 300% higher than market rate, I said. That is not competitive. That is theft. How dare you? Patricia's composure cracked. I've given years of my life to this community. I have dealt with ungrateful homeowners like you who do not appreciate anything I do. I have worked nights and weekends managing this HOA while the rest of you just criticized and complained. And this is the thanks I get. Accusations and insults. Patricia, Linda said quietly, did you or did you not use HOA funds for personal expenses? I do not have to answer that. Actually, you do, James spoke up for the first time. As an HOA officer, you have a fiduciary duty to the homeowners. If you have misappropriated funds, you are legally liable. You could face civil penalties, removal from the board, and potentially criminal charges. Patricia grabbed her purse. I am not going to sit here and be attacked like this. If you people want to believe this liar over someone who has dedicated herself to this community, that is your choice. I resign from the board, effective immediately. She walked out, slamming the door behind her. The room was silent for a moment. Then everyone started talking at once. Linda banged the gavel again. We need to vote on our next steps. I propose we hire an independent forensic accountant to audit the HOA finances and determine the full extent of any misappropriation. All in favor. The vote was unanimous. I also propose we report these findings to the police and let them determine whether criminal charges are warranted. All in favor. Again, unanimous. Finally, I propose we terminate the contract with Green Vista Landscaping immediately and seek competitive bids from other companies. All in favor. Unanimous. The meeting continued for another hour as people asked questions and vented their frustrations. I learned that I was not the only one Patricia had targeted with petty fines and harassment. Multiple homeowners shared stories of violation notices for trivial issues, threats of liens, and aggressive enforcement of minor rule violations. As I was leaving, Robert pulled me aside. Connor, I owe you an apology. I knew something was not right with the finances, but I did not want to make waves. I just kept signing off on things because it was easier than fighting with Patricia. I should have done my job. You still can, I said. Make sure that forensic accountant gets full cooperation. Make sure the police take this seriously. And make sure the next HOA board actually provides oversight instead of just rubber stamping whatever the president wants. He nodded. I will, and thank you. I know this probably was not easy for you." I went home feeling oddly unsatisfied. Yes, Patricia had been exposed. Yes, she would face consequences. But it all felt incomplete somehow. Then I remembered. The foreclosure. That was still coming. I checked my calendar. February 21st was 13 days away. The next morning I got a call from Derek. "Connor, I just got a weird call. Patricia Henderson called the office directly and asked to speak to whoever handles her loan. I told her I would pass the message along to our client, but I did not tell her it was you. She sounded desperate. What did she want?" "She wants to know if we can extend the balloon payment deadline or restructure the loan. She says she needs more time to refinance." "What did you tell her?" "That I would relay the message and someone would get back to her." "What do you want me to tell her?" I thought about it. Patricia was about to lose everything. Her position on the HOA board was gone. A criminal investigation was underway. And in less than 2 weeks, her house would be in foreclosure. Part of me wanted to be merciful. To give her the extension she was asking for, let her try to figure something out. But the other part of me remembered standing on her doorstep while she refused to return my property. Remembered the violation notices and the abuse of power. Remembered all the other homeowners she had bullied and harassed. "Tell her no," I said. "The loan terms are what she agreed to. The balloon payment is due on February 21st. If she cannot pay, we will proceed with foreclosure. You got it." 5 days later, I got served with a lawsuit. Patricia was suing me for defamation, harassment, and tortious interference with business relationships. She was asking for $500,000 in damages. I called James immediately. "This is a SLAP suit," he explained. SLAP stood for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. She is suing you to shut you up and punish you for exposing her misconduct. The good news is Colorado has a strong anti-SLAP statute. We can get this dismissed pretty quickly, and we can recover your attorney fees. How much is this going to cost me? Probably $10,000 to $15,000 to defend, but like I said, we will get that back when we win. And we will win, Connor. Everything you said at that board meeting was true and documented. Truth is an absolute defense to defamation. The lawsuit made me angry in a way that nothing else had. Patricia was not just fighting back. She was trying to weaponize the legal system to punish me for holding her accountable. "File a motion to dismiss," I said. "And James, I want to go on a fence. Can we countersue?" "Absolutely. We can file a counterclaim for malicious prosecution and abuse of process. We can also join the HOA's lawsuit against her if they file one. Do it all." February 21st arrived on a cold, clear Friday. I spent the morning at my office handling other business. At noon, Derek called. "The balloon payment is officially due. No payment received. Want me to send the default notice?" "Send it." The notice went out via certified mail and email. It informed Patricia that she was in default on her loan, that she had 30 days to cure the default by paying the full amount owed, and that if she failed to do so, we would proceed with foreclosure. In Colorado, foreclosure can happen through a public trustee sale, which is faster than judicial foreclosure. We had already prepared all the necessary paperwork. If Patricia did not pay within 30 days, her house would be scheduled for auction. I did not hear from her directly, but Derek reported that she called the office 4 times that day, each time more frantic than the last. She claimed she had a refinancing in the works, that she just needed a little more time, that it was unfair to foreclose when she had been making her payments for years. "What did you tell her?" I asked. "That the loan terms were clear, that she had 3 years to prepare for this balloon payment, and that we had no obligation to extend." I also pointed out that she had been late on payments multiple times, and that her payment history did not suggest she would be able to afford a new loan even if someone would give her one. 2 weeks into the 30-day cure period, the forensic accountant's report came back. The total amount Patricia had misappropriated was actually higher than I had calculated, just over $112,000 over 3 years. The accountant found additional personal charges I had missed, as well as evidence that she had been skimming cash from HOA events like the annual summer barbecue and holiday party. The HOA board filed a civil lawsuit against Patricia, seeking full reimbursement plus damages. They also turned the report over to the Boulder County District Attorney's Office. 3 days later, the district attorney filed criminal charges: theft, embezzlement, and abuse of public trust. Patricia was arrested at her home and spent a night in jail before posting bail. The local news picked up the story. Former HOA president charged with embezzling over $100,000 was the headline in the Boulder Daily Camera. The story included Patricia's mugshot and details of the charges. It also mentioned that she was facing foreclosure on her home and multiple civil lawsuits. I felt no satisfaction reading it, just a kind of grim inevitability. This was what happened when someone built their life on a foundation of entitlement and dishonesty. Eventually, it all collapsed. The 30-day cure period ended with no payment from Patricia. We filed the foreclosure paperwork with the public trustee. The trustee's office set a sale date for April 15th, about 6 weeks out. Patricia would have until then to either pay off the loan or find a buyer for the house. She did neither. On April 10th, 5 days before the scheduled foreclosure sale, Patricia's attorney contacted James. They wanted to negotiate a settlement on all pending litigation: the defamation suit she had filed against me, the counterclaim I had filed against her, and the HOA's lawsuit against her. "What are they offering?" I asked James. "She will drop her defamation suit and agree not to appeal the embezzlement conviction if we agree not to pursue our counterclaim, and if the HOA agrees to accept a structured payment plan for the restitution." "What about the foreclosure?" "She wants you to accept a deed in lieu of foreclosure and agree not to pursue a deficiency judgment." A deed in lieu meant Patricia would voluntarily sign over the house to me instead of going through the auction. It was cleaner and faster than foreclosure. A deficiency judgment meant that if the house sold for less than she owed, I could sue her for the difference. Given her financial situation, a deficiency judgment would be uncollectible, so agreeing not to pursue one cost me nothing. "What does the HOA think about the payment plan?" I asked. "They are considering it. Linda called me yesterday. She said that even if they get a judgment, they will probably never collect the full amount. Patricia does not have any assets left. They are thinking it might be better to get something rather than nothing. Tell them I will agree to the settlement on one condition. Patricia has to publicly apologize to the HOA and all the homeowners for her misconduct. A real apology, not some lawyer-written non-apology, and it has to be delivered in person at an HOA meeting." James laughed. "She is never going to agree to that. Then I guess we do not have a deal." Surprisingly, Patricia agreed. I suspected her attorney had explained just how badly things would go for her if all the litigation continued. She was facing criminal penalties, civil judgments she could never pay, and the public humiliation of a foreclosure auction. Swallowing her pride and apologizing was the least bad option. The meeting was scheduled for April 13th, 2 days before the foreclosure sale. Once again, the community center was packed. Everyone wanted to see Patricia Henderson humbled. She looked terrible. She had lost weight and her hair had lost its carefully maintained highlights. She was wearing a plain black dress, no jewelry, no makeup. She looked like someone who had been through hell. Linda called the meeting to order and explained the settlement terms. Then she invited Patricia to speak. Patricia stood at the front of the room, her hands clasped in front of her. For a long moment, she just stood there, not saying anything. Then she took a deep breath. "I owe all of you an apology. I abused the trust you placed in me as HOA president. I used HOA funds for personal expenses. I awarded a contract to my brother's company without proper bidding or disclosure. I targeted homeowners who questioned my authority with petty fines and harassment. I convinced myself that I was serving the community, but the truth is I was serving myself. I let power go to my head, and I hurt people who did not deserve it. I am sorry. I know that does not fix what I did, but it is the truth. I am sorry." She sat down. The room was silent. Linda cleared her throat. "Thank you, Patricia. The board accepts your apology. As part of the settlement agreement, you have agreed to resign permanently from the HOA board and to repay the misappropriated funds according to a payment plan approved by the board. You have also agreed to cooperate fully with the criminal proceedings. Is that correct?" Patricia nodded. "Yes." "Then this matter is resolved as far as the HOA is concerned. Connor, do you have anything you would like to say?" I stood up. I had not planned to say anything, but now I felt like I should. "Patricia, I accept your apology. I hope you can rebuild your life and learn from this. But I want everyone here to understand something. What happened here was not just one person making bad choices. It was a failure of oversight. The board did not do their job. The homeowners did not pay attention. We all just assumed someone else was watching, and that assumption created an environment where misconduct could thrive. So moving forward, I hope we will all be more engaged, more vigilant, and more willing to ask questions when something does not seem right." There was a murmur of agreement from the crowd. The meeting adjourned shortly after that. People clustered in small groups, talking about everything that had happened. I saw Patricia slip out a side door, alone. 2 days later, Patricia signed over the deed to her house. She moved out the following week. I never saw her again. I ended up selling the house 3 months later for $285,000. After paying off the loan balance and foreclosure costs, I made a profit of about $90,000. I donated half of it to a local nonprofit that provided free legal services to people facing foreclosure. It seemed fitting. The HOA board was completely restructured. Linda stayed on as president, but 2 new members were elected, including a retired accountant who volunteered to take over the treasurer position. They implemented new financial controls, including quarterly audits and a requirement that all expenses over $500 be approved by a majority vote of the board. Patricia pleaded guilty to the embezzlement charges and was sentenced to 3 years of probation, 300 hours of community service, and restitution. The payment plan she had negotiated with the HOA meant she would be making monthly payments for the next 10 years. As for me, I kept living in the neighborhood. My new HOA president was Linda, who was fair, reasonable, and actually read the bylaws before making decisions. Violation notices became rare and were only issued for actual problems, not petty nonsense. I never borrowed out my snow blower again, though. Some lessons you only need to learn once. One afternoon in early summer, I was working in my yard when I saw a moving truck pull up to Patricia's old house. A young couple got out, looking excited and a little overwhelmed. New homeowners, probably first-timers based on their age. The woman noticed me and waved. I walked over to introduce myself. "Hi, I am Connor. I live a few houses down. Welcome to the neighborhood." "Thanks, I am Sarah and this is my husband Mike. We are so excited. This is our first house." "Congratulations. It is a great neighborhood, quiet, friendly. The HOA is reasonable, which is more than you can say for a lot of places. We heard there was some drama with the previous owner, Mike said. The realtor mentioned something about embezzlement that got resolved, I said. New board, new policies. You should not have any issues. We chatted for a few more minutes about the neighborhood, where the good restaurants were, which grocery store was closest. Normal new neighbor conversation. As I walked back to my house, I thought about everything that had happened. The confrontation over the snow blower seemed like such a small thing now, such a trivial catalyst for everything that followed. But that was how these things worked sometimes. One moment of entitlement, one abuse of power too many, and the whole house of cards came tumbling down. I wondered sometimes if Patricia had learned anything from the experience, if losing everything had given her perspective, or if she just felt victimized and bitter. I would probably never know. What I did know was that I had learned something. I had learned that standing up to bullies mattered, even when it was uncomfortable. Especially when it was uncomfortable. Because if nobody ever stood up to them, they just kept getting worse. I also learned that sometimes karma needed a little help. Patricia had been abusing her position for years, and nobody had stopped her because it was easier to look the other way. If I had not requested those financial records, if I had not done the analysis, if I had not presented the findings to the board, she would probably still be there, still stealing, still harassing homeowners over petty violations. That night, I sat on my back deck with a beer and looked out over the neighborhood. The sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Somewhere a dog was barking. A couple of kids were riding bikes down the street. It was a nice neighborhood. Worth fighting for, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Derek. New loan application just came in. Guy wants to borrow $200K against his condo. Credit score is 580. Says he is good for it because he is about to get a promotion. Sound familiar? I smiled and typed back. Some people never learn. Send me the details. Life went on. The HOA continued to function, now with proper oversight and accountability. I continued to run my lending business, helping people who needed credit when banks would not touch them, but always with clear terms and realistic expectations. And somewhere out there, Patricia Henderson was presumably working her way through community service and probation, paying back the money she had stolen, and hopefully reflecting on the choices that had brought her to that point. I did not feel sorry for her. But I did not take pleasure in her downfall either. It was just the natural consequence of her actions. She had built a small empire based on intimidation and fraud, and when it collapsed, she had nobody to blame but herself. The snow blower sat in my garage, ready for next winter. I took good care of it, kept it serviced and maintained. It was a good machine, reliable and powerful. It had outlasted the woman who had tried to claim it as HOA property. Sometimes I thought about that day, standing in my doorway while Patricia demanded I hand over my property for her convenience. How confident she had been. How certain that she could just take what she wanted because she held a position of authority. She had learned the hard way that authority without accountability was just another word for tyranny, and that tyrants, sooner or later, always fell. I raised my beer in a silent toast to that truth, and to all the homeowners who had finally gotten free of Patricia Henderson's reign. The neighborhood was better without her. We all were.